Let's talk about the Song of Achilles. I've read this book over the past 3 weeks with you here on the channel, and I want to discuss this book with you now. I really liked it, and it is a 4-star read for me. A 5-star read if I let my personal opinion out of, because it is a fantastic book, but personally I'm not that much into Greek mythology, and I think you can get more out of this book if you know all the backstories of the characters. And I'm generally not that much interested in historical fiction or non-fiction. In general, the historical things. So that is the 1 star that I subtracted. Just my personal opinion, but it is a really great book and a really great read. So whether you know the story of Achilles or not, it is worth a try. So let's start to discuss. Be aware this video is full of spoilers. I will discuss the whole book. So if you haven't read the book, I don't know if you want to watch this video. And if you have read it, you can discuss it with me in the comments. I would like to discuss it with you and hear your opinions on the story. And I can show you how my copy looks like after reading. I marked a lot of pages, so a lot to discuss. I hope I need not as long as I needed for lessons in chemistry, because that was a long video. So let's start. In the first third of the book, I really debated if Patroclus, our main character beside Achilles, is a foot fetishist. Because this book is written from the POV of Patroclus, and in the first 120-130 pages he mentions so much Achilles' feet and how they look and that they are oiled and things like that, and that were the part where I really thought about, has he a foot fetish? Maybe, we don't know, but in the rest of the book it is not mentioned as much, so that was that. And the story is about him, Patroclus, and Achilles. And what I have to say about Achilles, he's a total narcissist for me. I don't want to be in a relationship with this man. His honor is his #1 priority throughout the book, and he sacrifices everything for that, even his own life, just to be honored and have a place in history. He sacrifices himself, his love, his everything for it. And yeah, that was the thing I didn't like about him. But let's dive into it. The first marker I have in chapter 5, that is the point where Achilles and Patroclus have met, and they start to develop a friendship, because Achilles wants Patroclus now as his companion. And I really liked how they started their friendship to each other and how this friendship develops over time. The story starts when they are both very young. In this scene they are 12 or 13. And when we go on, Patroclus asks himself why him as a companion. Peleus, that is Achilles' father, had spoken true. He had often encouraged Achilles to choose his companions, but in all those years Achilles showed no special interest in any of the boys, though he was polite to all, as befitted his upbringing. And now he had bestowed the long-awaited honor upon the most unlikely of us, small and ungrateful and probably cursed. That is Patroclus, and that is the point where the story of these both characters begins, and they not only start a friendship, they also start to love each other very young, but obviously they don't know that it is love when they are so young, and they don't want to act on these feelings at this age. But we have a sentence from Patroclus here. As if he heard me, he smiled, and his face was like the sun. That I thought was really, really cute, and shows that it is a little bit more than friendship here. Then we are in chapter 6, and Patroclus said, "And as we swam or played or talked, a feeling would come. It was almost like fear, in the way it filled me, rising in my chest. It was almost like tears in how swiftly it came, but it was neither of those." That was also a really cute scene that shows that Patroclus is developing feelings for Achilles, and I really liked to see how this developed over all these years. And the next scene is also in chapter 6, and it is about Achilles. And Achilles is a half-god, and his mother is a god, and his mother wants Achilles to be a god and wants to make him a god. And Patroclus asks him, "Do you want to be a god?" And Achilles answers, "Not yet." So he's not ready to leave his human life behind, and I totally understand this. He is very young, and of course he wants to enjoy the life he has. So I totally understand his decision that he makes here. And then we reach a point where the other boys in this home start to make out with girls and start to have sex with these girls. And then Patroclus says, "And I was shy and silent with all but Achilles. I could scarcely speak to the other boys, let alone a girl. As a comrade of the prince, I would not have had to speak. A gesture or a look would have been enough, but such a thing did not occur to me. The feelings that stirred in me at night seemed strangely distant for those serving girls with their lowered eyes and obedience. I watched a boy fumbling at a girl's dress, the dull look on her face as he poured his wine. I did not wish for such a thing." And I really honor that in this context, that he don't want to wish to use these girls, because these girls have no other choice. At this time they were only a thing that can be used, and I'm very glad that Patroclus don't want this. He's one of the good guys here. And then we have the first moments where they start to act a little bit on these feelings, and situations get a bit weird when they play fight with each other, and one of them throws the other on the bed and things like that. It is cute. But I understand that all of this is new to them, and that they have to learn to accept these feelings. And then they have their first kiss on page 60 here, and Patroclus says then, I am horrified. What have I done? But I do not have time to apologize. He stands and steps backwards. His face has closed over, impenetrable and distant, freezing the explanations in my mouth. He turns and races, the fastest boy in the world, up the beach and away. My side is cold with his absence. My skin feels tight, and my face, I know, is red and raw as burn. Dear gods, I think, let him not hate me. Not the best experience for a first kiss, but I really liked this scene. And this is also the chapter 7, where Achilles has to go away to be taught by Chiron. Patroclus is left back in this home of Achilles, but he don't want to stay there and runs away to follow Achilles to Chiron. And that was really cute and really brave of him, because he has nothing as he runs away, and he only knows the direction to go, and that is all he has at this point. But gladly Achilles found him, and Chiron is really cool and has no problem to also train Patroclus, even if they don't learn the same things with Chiron, because Achilles obviously wants to learn to fight, to be the best hero of all times, and wants to learn everything to reach his goals. But Patroclus is the total opposite. He don't want to fight, he hates to fight, and he wants to learn to help people. And Chiron starts to show him all he knows about medicine. So I think that was really cool. And in this time by Chiron, they both learn a lot of things. They learn a lot about their relationship to each other and start to date each other and start to make out, start all these things. They have their whole teenage time together by Chiron, and I marked a lot of things in this time, but I don't want to go too much into detail here, because then we have another very, very long video. So I skip through my notes here and come back to you with the more important parts of it. In chapter 9 we have one of the two themes where Achilles' weakness is mentioned, because Chiron here says a wound in any of them will eventually be fatal, but death is quickest here. His finger tapped the slight concavity of Achilles' temple. A chill went through me to see it touch that place where Achilles' life was so slenderly protected. I was glad when we spoke of other things. So that is one of the two scenes. The other one is way in the end, in his death scene. But what I really missed at this point in the story was an explanation why he has only this one weakness. I don't think it was explained in this book, and I googled it afterwards, that this was the place on his body where his mother held him and where her hand was when she held him in the river in hell. I forgot the name at this moment. And that is the only place that wasn't touched by the water. So that is his weakness. But I had to Google it afterwards. It was not mentioned here, or I overlooked it. Maybe, I don't know. You can tell me probably in the comments if you've read this book, and please tell me if I overlooked it. And here in chapter 10 we have now the turning point from friendship to relationship, and they talk about it after the first kisses. And then Achilles said, "I did not think that we would ever." He was hesitating over every word, and I could not blame him. "I did not think so either," I said. "Are you sorry?" The words were quickly out of him, a single breath. "I am not," I said. "I am not either." They were silent then, and I did not care about the damp palette or how sweaty I was. His eyes were unwavering, green flecked with gold. A certainty rose in me, lodged in my throat. I will never leave him. It will be this, always, for as long as he will let me. So very cute, and it is not only first love, it is soulmate love here. And I really loved that they are waited to act on their feelings till they know what they want, and that is this relationship, and that they are so secure in it to say from the beginning that it is forever. And then we come to the point in chapter 11 where the whole plot begins. Not just the romantic relationship plot, but the war plot that we have in this story, and the start of the whole Trojan War, with the point that there has been a crime, and that the wife of Menelaus, Queen Helen, has been abducted from the palace of Sparta. So here starts the Trojan War and the first acts of it. It is a very, very long war, as I learned here. I didn't know that, but it is over many, many years in which Achilles and Patroclus both grew up from boys to men. But here in the beginning, where this was mentioned, that Helen was abducted, Achilles is not fully ready to join the war, and his mother brings him to another kingdom where he hides as a woman, so he doesn't have to go to war, because she knew the prophecy about Achilles and that he will die in this war. He wants to rescue her son, but not only Patroclus finds him in this other kingdom, and they go back together, a relationship that his mother doesn't support, and she doesn't like Patroclus. She wants Achilles to be with a woman and make babies and all these things. And we learn here in chapter 12 that Achilles cheated on Patroclus and slept with Princess Deidamia. So the princess of the kingdom he hides in, because his mother promised him if he slept with Deidamia, she says Patroclus, where Achilles is. She doesn't do that, but Achilles trusted his mother and slept with Deidamia, and Deidamia is now pregnant. Obviously that all hurts Patroclus very much, and I understand that, but in the end he forgives Achilles, and I was halfway okay with it. Cheating is always a red flag for me. So in this book, but the worst part of it was that Patroclus says to Achilles, everything is forgiven, and Then he goes to Deidamia and slept with her. I mean, seriously? Are you kidding me? That is what you do after that? No, absolutely not. That was the one thing that was not okay that Patroclus did here. I really like him, but that was a no-go. But after that, they decide Deidamia should have the baby, and the baby should grow up with Achilles' mother, so he can be the next big hero. And they are found now by the hero Odysseus in chapter 14. Achilles tried to hide in his woman's clothes, but Odysseus knows that he is there and they are busted. And Achilles has to decide if he wants to join this journey to Troy. And that is the point where he hears the first time about the prophecy. And the prophecy says that if you do not come to Troy, your godhead will wither in you, unused. Your strength will diminish. At best, you will be like Comedes here, mouldering on a forgotten island with only daughters to succeed him. Skyros will be conquered soon by a nearby state. You know this as well as I. They will not kill him. Why should they? He can live out his years in some corner eating the bread they soften for him, senile and alone. When he dies, people will say, "Who?" That is the prophecy. And the other part of the prophecy says, if you go to Troy, you will never return. You will die a young man there. And Achilles knows that now, but still decides he wants to go to war and wants to fight for his honor. So they both join the journey of Odysseus to Troy. We are now halfway through, and I have to say at this point that Achilles is very secure in this relationship and very confident. He says Patroclus is my husband and things like that. He is very open about it, but Patroclus is again the total opposite. He's very feared and he's always ashamed when this relationship is openly mentioned, and he always says, "No, we are just friends, there is nothing." And I think that is really sad, and I wished he were also very open about this relationship. But in historical context of this time, it was very common that men like each other, but they didn't have relationships where they are both on the same level. It is mentioned here in the book that often as kids they have relationships with each other, the boys, and when they grow up they give up these relationships and start normal marriages. Normal is the wrong word for this because every love is normal. But they start relationships with women, and if they have still these feelings for men, they mostly do it on the side with some servants or slaves, but they don't do a relationship like with a woman. And that is Patroclus' biggest fear here. I think that he is suddenly not worthy enough of this relationship, and that people think different about him, and he doesn't want that. And I understand that, but it is really, really sad. But we are now at the border to Troy and in front of the city and start the siege of Troy because Achilles and all the others like Menelaus and Odysseus want Troy to give up and that they hand out Helen. But it is not as easy as that, obviously, because this war goes over many, many years, as I mentioned before. And with the arrival in Troy, we are now in chapter 16. And Patroclus says here, "It was the moment perhaps that our life changed. Not before in Skyros, nor before that still on Pelion. But there, as we began to understand the grandness now and always, that would follow him wherever he went. He had chosen to become a legend, and this was the beginning." And yes, it was the beginning and also the end, because as we know in this point, he will not leave this war alive. So Achilles leads one army and there are other armies on this side of the war, the good side, and they start the siege and starts to rob the villages around Troy and start to kill, to rape, to share the women of these villages as things they won in this war. And it is really sad. I didn't like this part, but it is one of many war crimes, and I really liked that Patroclus, even if he doesn't fight in this war or tries to not fight in this war, he wants to help these women and wishes for Achilles to claim some of these women so they can at least have a good life there. They don't get raped and they can start to heal, and Patroclus helps them as best as he can. And before the first big battle, in chapter 19, Achilles said that he don't think he can do it to kill other people, but in the same chapter the first battle began and he killed someone. It was the first murder in this whole war, and then we have the sentence, Achilles' face was still, almost peaceful. So in the end he has no problem with killing men, and it is almost peaceful for him. And in the battles following to this situation, it is always the same. Achilles comes back from these battles full of blood on his whole body and tells Patroclus the whole story, who he killed, how many he killed, how he killed them, and this is his healing method so that the killing is forgiven. I don't know. I think it is a real cruel method for Patroclus, so that he has still all these details even if he doesn't want to fight in this war. But he does everything to help Achilles, so I think it is okay in the end. But for me it was not okay what Achilles did here, because in these villages were only innocent people. They had nothing to do with this war and still they got killed because of the war. And Achilles is almost proud of that, and that is the part that I didn't like. But we are now at a point in chapter 22 where Troy waved a white flag and they want to talk, and they try to explain that Helen wasn't abducted. She went with Paris on her own will, and that she wants to be with Paris and not with Menelaus, but obviously that is all bullshit, and no, she was abducted. And I really wished we had Helen herself here, that she could say the truth, because we have just the men here talking. And yeah, obviously after that the war goes on. We have more battles over time. They all grew tired at some time. Even the gods, we have some catastrophes here in nature, and they have to sacrifice things to appease the gods, so the war can still go on. We are now 7 years into the Trojan War. The only thing I haven't mentioned before is that Achilles doesn't fight against Hector, the greatest fighter of Troy, and Achilles always fights on the other end of the battlefield to not kill Hector, because Hector is the catalyst of the whole prophecy, because it said in the prophecy that Achilles gets killed after Hector got killed, and Achilles is the only one capable of killing Hector, because only the greatest hero of time can kill Hector, and that is Achilles. Achilles always says that he has no reason to kill Hector because he has nothing against Hector, and that is important for later. And we are now 9 years into the war, and there is a lot going on. We are now in a situation where the daughter of a priest got abducted in this war and is now a war trophy, and Agamemnon wants this girl for himself, and there is a big fight over this. The priest comes into the camp and wants to have his daughter back, and even Achilles fights for this girl, and in the end he says that he don't continue to fight if there is no justice for this girl. And he is so upset at this point that Agamemnon hurted his honor, and he won't fight until Agamemnon says he's sorry, which he don't do. So they have a problem now, because Achilles not fighting means they will lose the war and Troy will win. And that is a catalyst for our grand finale here. We are now in chapter 27, where Patroclus asks Achilles, what if he will not beg? Then he will die. They will all die. I will not fight until he does. His chin just bracing for reproach. I am worn out. My arms hurt where I cut it, and my skin feels coated with unwholesome sweat. I do not answer. Did you hear what I said? I heard I said, Greeks will die. So it is okay for Achilles that thousands of Greeks will die because his honor was hurt. no big red flag that he does this and that he is so stubborn in this, and especially that he is so stubborn that Patroclus gets really desperate in here. So desperate that he begs Achilles to start fighting again, and Patroclus says, "Save them for me. I know what I'm asking of you, but I ask it for me." He looked down at me, and I saw the pull my words had on him, the struggle in his eyes. He swallowed. "Anything else," he said. "Anything, but not this. I cannot." I looked at the stone of his beautiful face and despaired. "If you love me—" "No!" His face was stiff with tension. "I cannot. If I yield, Agamemnon can dishonor me whenever he wishes. The king will not respect me, nor the man." He was breathless, as though he had run far. "Do you think I wish them all to die? But I cannot. I cannot. I will not let him take this from me." "Then do something else. Send the Myrmidons at least. Send me in your place. Put me in your armor, and I will lead the Myrmidons. They will think it is you." The words shocked us both. They seemed to come through me, not from me, as though spoken straight from a god's mouth. Yet I seized on them, as a drowning man had last breath. "Do you see? You will not have to break your oath, yet the Greeks will be saved." So Patroclus, the one that doesn't want to fight, is ready to go to war, to pretend to be Achilles. So the whole army goes back to fight and they can save the Greeks. And I thought at this point, at least at this point, Achilles should give up and should go back to war. But no, he is ready to sacrifice his one and true love to save his honor, and that is the last point to make him a real narcissist, that his honor is more important to him than Patroclus. And of course, this is Patroclus' death. He gets killed in this battle that he fights for Achilles and the Greeks, and he is killed by Hector, none other than Hector. And yeah, of course, Achilles is devastated after this. His heart is broken and he has just one goal now, and that is revenge on Hector. So he goes back into battle and fights Hector and kills Hector, and that is his own death, because not long after that he gets killed himself, and this is the end of Achilles' story. And we have a little scene after that with Achilles' son. That asshole, he is the worst. He is a little bit like Joffrey in Game of Thrones. So this level of cruelty, and yeah, we have some views then from the dead Patroclus, which was a bit weird to have scenes written by his ghost. But they are both joined in death in the end, after a bit of struggle there, and they can live now, hopefully happy ever after, in paradise. And that was the Song of Achilles and the whole story. And I think it was a really interesting story. I really liked the book, the writing style, the story of Patroclus and Achilles, told by Patroclus and not from the POV of the big hero, and I really liked how Madeline Miller wrote the story as a love story, because in history classes this is mostly mentioned as a big friendship, and it is not. In the originals it is a love story, and that was the point where Madeline Miller wanted to write this book, and she has written it. And maybe I will read the other book from her in the future, Circe. I don't know what Circe is about, but also Greek mythology. But this book will now go on my shelf, and I could tell you now what the next book for our Thursday Read With Me is. And the next book is a Halloween special, just for Halloween, because it is really thin, so we can read it in one day. And the next Thursday is Halloween, so it is perfect, and we will read Graveyard Shift by Emil Rio. I can't wait to read this with you and discuss it the week after that. And with that, like the video if you want, subscribe to my channel, tell me in the comments if you like Song of Achilles or what you've read if you've not read Song of Achilles, and I will see you next time. Bye!